So I genuinely thought that The Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was actually a really, really impressive movie, and it really is one of those ones that really does stick with you long after you've finished watching it, as it's so epic and truly cinematic, and it's kicking off a brand new trilogy within this universe, and I think it was absolutely the right decision in terms of continuing the brilliant universe that they've rebooted very recently with the Caesar trilogy. And actually, this one is set 300 years after that, so you can see what is the situation with these apes going to be long after Caesar's successful reign. And I just think it's just, like I said, so clever in terms of what are all of the different factions going to do. In terms of some people following it word for word and others really twisting it. I honestly thought it was so fascinating. And I think it's really, really successful in terms of getting the audience to really empathize with the ape's perspective. Very similarly to how the creator was able to do it in terms of getting the audience to really empathize with AI robots, as well as taking a lot of inspiration from the X-Men franchise in terms of, for example, seeing different people's perspectives. For example, Charles Xavier just wanting coexistence and peace among human and mutant kind alike, whereas Magneto and the humans definitely want to have superiority over the other race. There is just firstly so much social commentary just within the storyline itself. And actually, like I said, I just feel like they did it in such a good way that you could literally see where all of the different characters are coming from, which is a true testament to the writing of this film. As like I said, it's just done in such a good way. And despite the fact that this movie has about a 2.5 hour runtime, I actually think that the final act of this movie was pretty rushed. I mean, I can see why they did it, as of course they just wanted to do a lot of world building, which they did actually do really, really successfully. But I just feel like the final act could have been a little bit longer, as there was just so many interesting things happening, so many twists and turns, that I just feel like they could have extended it to really make it even more impactful. Especially when you saw the double crossing that May is doing, and just wants to wipe out apes and wants to bring back human superiority and human domination. It was just so shocking, and you just couldn't believe it, and you really could see Noah's heart breaking. And very similarly, the audience's heart is breaking as well. So I just think it was just written in such a good way. And speaking of Noah, I feel like he was an excellent protagonist, a really endearing lead character. And he's really early on his journey, so he's just learning so much about the world. And in turn, the audience are really learning and experiencing everything through this character's lens. And he just goes through immense tragedy right in the beginning of this movie, that you really can feel it and experience it as well. And I think it was a really clever idea in terms of showing how utopian everything is in the beginning, and then quite literally gets destroyed and disseminated. And people's characters definitely do grow through the experiences that they have. And understandably, Noah is very naive in the beginning and is actually really easily manipulated by a number of different other characters. Some do it for very innocent purposes, but others really do take advantage of him. I thought that Proximus was a really cool villain. I feel like he was such a layered character. And actually, I'm really loving what's happening at the moment in terms of villains are so brilliantly written so that you can actually see things from their perspective. So they weren't just being bad for the sake of being bad. Actually, you can see where this evil guy is coming from in terms of really manipulating and twisting Caesar's teachings for his own rise to power. And he knows that inside this vault, he is going to get access to a lot of information that the apes don't know about yet, that actually humans were storing. So I feel like you can really see things from this character's perspectives. And he has just created this kingdom. So from his point of view, he is actually doing the apes a favor, but what he's also in turn doing is completely destroying their natural habitat and their original villages, and is forcing them to live under his rulings. And he's so arrogant that actually he thinks these native village apes are never going to be able to overthrow him. But I loved it when Noah was able to use the eagles, the thing that his tribe is really known for and is their unique power, so to speak, is the thing that is able to overthrow Proximus quite literally right at the end. I thought it was just coming together so well. I love the character of Raka as well, the really wise sage, and you always need a character like this in a character's hero's journey, so he definitely did play the part in Noah's brilliant story, and he is the true descendant of following Caesar's teachings of coexistence and what he was teaching in terms of how apes should be more peaceful and that this is the right way to live in society. All of that kind of stuff I thought was really nice to see from this character's perspective, and therefore his death was just so tragic. And he was just such a firm believer of coexistence that he was just drilling it into Noah's mind that, look, this is the only way for you to be successful, not realizing and not knowing that, of course, humans have their own motivation, and some of them aren't actually good people. So I feel like this character, in some respects, whilst he is really, really noble, actually he is a little bit naive himself as well. And then speaking of the humans, I thought May was a brilliantly written character, as at first she seems incredibly innocent and very much role reversal in terms of how she behaves, a little bit like an ape. But then as the movie is progressing, you are seeing that she is willing to betray, double cross, and even kill other apes for her own agenda. The way in which she was just standing on that raised platform, just watching all of these apes potentially dying under this flood, and then bringing that gun to her final encounter with Noah, and then ultimately returning back to the humans with all this information that they could potentially overthrow all of the apes with. I thought May was a really complex character with a lot of nuance, and you can see that, you know, where is she coming from, what's her different perspectives, but I ultimately, like I said, because you're kind of following the journey from the apes' perspective, this character really does come across as a bit of a villain herself. You're really able to see how twisted May is when she so barbarically kills off Trevathon, as of course he is teaching Proximus a lot about human life and how humans used to be before, and is interpreting a lot of human learnings to Proximus to allow him to create this kingdom in the first place. So I thought his character was pretty fascinating, as he realized that the only way that I can really survive and stay alive is if I just listen to Proximus and just ultimately allow the apes to rule. Whereas this is in complete contrast to what May believes and what May's views are, to the point where she actually kills off Trevathon. So like I said, May is such a twisted character. We've also got Suna and Analia, which are of course Noah's childhood friends. I love their little trio friendship, and if anything, I would have loved a couple more sequences in terms of them having a little bit of a trio, going on their own adventures. I feel like they were really helpful towards Noah right in the beginning in terms of getting that eagle's egg, but then after that they just got completely separated, had one final sequence together right at the end, but I think outside of that they could have just done so much more with this trio. So with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I think it was a brilliantly well written movie. I feel like there are so many parallels that you can do from a social commentary perspective in terms of how humans are behaving today, and I didn't really know what to expect from this movie, but I was so pleasantly surprised. I think the storyline, like I said, was incredibly well written, so much nuance, and really does stay with you long after you've finished watching it. The visuals were absolutely incredible. Not only do the apes look incredibly realistic, I feel like the world of this jungle and this kingdom and this bunker that all of these characters are trying to get into was actually really, really good. And I'm really, really excited to see what on earth is going to happen next, which I cannot wait for. But as far as this movie is concerned, I thought it came together really, really well. And so for all of those reasons, I'm going to give it a mega 7.5 out of 10. Now I'd love to hear from you. What did you think of this film? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.